Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. Elon Musk posted early this morning our time a deal that this is worth watching. And 11 million people have watched it so far. And it's a 2-hour plus video about the mirror image effect and why transgender and a bunch of stuff that have happened in the last 15, 20 years, how they happen. And it's been made by a husband-wife couple. He was a producer-director in Hollywood, and I don't know what she was. But it's the same system that Goebbels initiated for Hitler back in the day. If you say it loud enough times, people believe it. That's more or less the essence of the deal. And and how slowly but surely we now have the pronouns for people and bisexual bathrooms, etc. I only watched the first 35 or 40 minutes of it, but it's pretty good. I know all this stuff, but and how slowly but surely we've gone to where we are now with woke and political correctness over 40, 50 years. By the way, The Hague is on fire. They're burning it to the ground right now. Yeah. Immigrants, The Hague is kaput. And I don't know. My news feed is I get all maybe the terrorist shit. I don't know but anyway. So when places are burning down and shot dead, there was another one, interesting one, which I liked and enjoyed. A guy had just been convicted of raping a family's 7-year-old boy. And he was being taken off and chained someplace. And his father, very similar to how Robert Kennedy got assassinated, walks up behind him and blows his brains out on public TV. I got off on that. More of that should happen. Eliminate a lot of people in prison and eliminate all the courts costs. And I don't know what's going to happen to the guy. I'm sure he'll go to jail for the rest of his life, but I'm sure he thinks it's worth it. But getting back to the mirror image effect, and it's why it's better for us. Because the guys and the gals and the its or whatever they're called, the in-betweens, are not, that's another 2 or 5 million people around the world that are not our competition. Because when you show up with 40,000 tattoos and this, that, and the other thing, one, they don't own anything for the most part. I know that's an exaggeration. And they're not going to be competing for a chairman with you. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. I didn't think I'd live this long to see this, but my dad did. He says, he died in his early 90s. He said, I'm glad I'm going, because it breaks my heart. Okay. Last night, you saw whom? Raymond. 822 days to do his first deal. And I think towards the end of his talk, or at the end of his talk, I said 95% of what he did, I didn't do. But most of you are going to do like him. That's why we show it to you. I can pick the ones in this room after one day who's going to do it like him. I already know. Based on one night's homework and your questions. And for a few of you, my one-on-one. You know who is going to be like him in your heart, in your gut. Now, he's done 4 or 5 deals. He's got a company worth $100 million. Yeah, but he's taken, first deal was 822 days. The second deal was a year. The third deal was 3 months. And the fourth deal was 4 days. He had not done the fourth deal by the time he did that video when he was here. We don't have a second and third deal on video. And he did it very much like if they taught this at the MBA schools, he's a professor type anyway. That's how he would do it. But He did government contracts, but he didn't do government contracts. He bought the companies that did the government contracts. No money. As I was telling the young Dutchman last night, which he couldn't get through his head, his thick skull, no fucking money. And I've already said it's going to be your biggest challenge. The speed bumps in the QLA process are like the little speed bumps I have in my driveway here. They're about that high. Okay? You're going to think the motherfucking Mount Everest. But no speed bump in the QLA process. And all the speed bumps are between your ears. We've had, 10 or 15, 20 guys over 30 years that have had no speed bumps. Zero. We had a lawyer back in the 90s. I think I told you the first night that he got it in the first 15, 20 minutes. That's unusual. We've only had 2 or 3 of those. They were able to connect the dots. And there's a lot of dots to connect. More importantly, there's more dots to unconnect. It's like the backward bicycle. Every once in a while I thought, I'm going to bring it back, but we had people staying up all night trying to ride that goddamn thing. All night. Questions, comments about Raymond? Sir in the back.
Morning, Mr. Peña. What's the difference between someone taking 90 days, 120 days to close their first deal and someone who's looking to close their first deal in 825 days?
Normally IQ. The higher the IQ, I'm an exception to that rule. The higher the IQ, the longer it takes you. And then if you're trained like a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an accountant, there's a couple others. It'll take you longer. Because QLA is not linear. That's why it's called quantum. And you can't jump a chasm. Chasm is like it's like a big ditch. You can't jump a chasm in 2 leaps. You've got to jump a chasm in 1 leap. And it's never absolutely guaranteed you're going to make the chasm. And most of you are looking for risk-free transactions. Everybody, maybe 1 or 2 of you aren't looking for a risk-free, but almost everybody, other than that 1 or 2 of you, you want a riskless transaction because you have no balls. That's the difference. The longest, I told you, we had 2 Germanic, 1 Austrian, and 1 German from Bavaria. 1 took 12 years, 1 took 13 years. It's a long fucking time. And the one that took 13 years came to the seminar. He came to 14 or 15 seminars in a row, paid full tilt. And then I started or initiated hardcore. And he came to the first hardcore. He had sent his 14-year-old, his 17-year-old, I think that's all he sent of his kids. And at the hardcore, because he didn't think it was possible, he was a guy, a rocket scientist, he put the shit on the moon and then Mars and that kind of thing. For real, he did. And then he came into the hardcore, the first night dinner at the hardcore, and there were 7 Germans there. And he was the 8th. And they had all done deals. And hearing it from a fellow German, I don't know, and it clicked, and he's never turned back, and he's made several $100 million since then. He used to write formulas. We used to have a chalkboard, a whiteboard thing. He used to write formulas why you can't do it. Because he didn't believe in the non-equity portion. He didn't believe. Another thing he didn't believe in, a lot of people during your quest for board members do not believe, will not believe, and some cannot believe that you can get a guy to sell his business to you and you use his money to buy his own business back from him on a seller finance. I've got I know billionaire guys that you know their names that still don't believe it. I was at a funeral a couple years ago for one of these guys who was best buddies for another billionaire guy. And he says, you still can't believe it. This guy here would sell me his business and I'd use your money to buy your own business back. This first slide is a guy that bought this hospital for $1. $1. Didn't come to the seminar. During the hardcore, the guy that sat in the back seat where you asked the question, we call him Gabriel 13 because we have a lot of Gabriels. Anyway, he's Gabriel 13. And the last day, within about 2 hours of us going to get dressed for the graduation ceremony, somebody paid him 50,000 euros to take his business off his hands. Because I've done that. I had people not just buy it for $1, they pay me to take it off. I never did it for so little, 50 grand. But I mean, I did it for 9 million, 12 million, etc. And he did it right like a movie, like at the end of a big race or and to say he was happy, was an understatement. He had, and we call him 13 because he had done 13 deals before he got hardcore. Most of the people, not most, at least half the people that come to hardcore have never done a deal before. And it's normally the incentive, seeing, being around people that have done a lot of deals. But this guy bought that hospital for $1.
The guy who paid 50,000 euros, did he stay in the company after you bought it?
Yeah, 45 days.
Okay, no, not for longer. Okay.
No, 45 days.
Else it would be a smarter way to get you in the board.
Yeah. Well, but see, you don't believe it because one, you've never met anybody that did it, and two, your dots that are connected that preclude you from riding the backward bicycle. It's not in your DNA to think that somebody would, one, sell you his business and then allow you to pay for the business 100% out of his own money, like a seller's note, and you would never ask for money. Okay, you look like you're hurting. I'm not talking about emotionally. I'll take your business. I'll take $1 or a euro, something like that. Some of the Indians have even done it for a rupee, which is almost no money. And I told you in the beginning, the first night, I cannot fill your cup up with QLA info until you empty the shit that you got in it. And some people just can't do it. It's impossible. Some ethnicities, it's impossible. It's not. It's just. Question. Well, okay, go ahead.
What is it about rollover equity that Mr. Raymond didn't like?
Well, first of all, his definition of rollover equity and our definition, as seller's note to me or to the model, as long as he or she or it or them are allowing you to take a note, give them a note for all of or part of the business, that's seller finance. That's seller finance. The rollover equity sometimes is defined where it's not a pure, you're not buying the whole company. The rollover equity, he has a choice whether he's going to sell it to you or not going to sell it to you. And Raymond doesn't like the option. He wants to know that 100% of the company is coming his way. Which I don't care. Once I get the foot in the door, once I get you in bed, sweet pea, you're mine. 99.999999% of the people that enter into seller finance sell the whole company. And when we get to that part of the seminar, when we talk about the various options, and I told you, I think yesterday, I don't think I know, yesterday that from January 2020, just before Corona, through last night, we have not had a 60-40 deal fail. Not one. Not one. And we've had thousands of transactions. And then we'll show you how to structure the 60-40. And you're going to hear the Australian Godzilla talk about, who has become famous for no personal guarantees and no signing, and it's not. First of all, most of you have no money. What is your guarantee worth? The reason they want to see if you've got balls, if you got your dick in the game. That's the only reason they ask for your guarantee. And I haven't signed a guarantee. Not 50 years, that'd be an exaggeration, but at least 40 plus. Only poor people sign guarantees. Now, there's a gentleman in this room today that before he came here, he went, and you know how I on the webinars I say, well, you're the young banker. Hi, Mr. Banker, you're just opening up, or what's your credit limit? What you can sign a credit for the bank, and blah, 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 and you say 50 grand or whatever you say. And I said, well, it's good. I need 49.9. And the particular credit officer that he was talking to, credit limit was 30 grand. So he got 29.9 with no signature, no guarantee. And he happens to be carrying the check with him to show me. You don't have to sign. As my kids, when they were little, they'd come to the seminar. It's a fig Newton of your imagination, mister. They used to say, when they sit in the back of the room in the seminars. Which they hate seminars, by the way. Because I made them come to them and beat them. I mean, literally beat them. So you can overdo a good thing. But as our 12-year-old daughter, who's now 37, would say, or did say, the first seminar she sat through the whole fucking thing, she says, this is easy peasy, Daddy. And it is. The only thing that keeps you from believing it's easy peasy is between these. Some of you have bigger ears than others, but it's between your ears. It's easy peasy. But you still, a lot of you will have, you're all going to have difficulty. But some of you will have such difficulty that those little speed bumps that are out there are Mount Everest. Somebody had their hand up? Yeah.
Mr. Roberts mentioned that the banks are requiring a 5-year pro forma when seeking financing. Has that changed?
No, it's still. When you're buying people that are buying, they're doing roll-ups. They want to see the pro forma longer out. Most of you are going to just buy the companies. You're not going to buy the companies that buy the roll-ups. And his first deals were big. He started, I doubt, and I've told him this, if he hadn't had 5-year performance, they wouldn't have asked him for 5-year performance. Any other comments about Raymond? Yes, sir.
Sir, if the motivated seller doesn't sign the LOI on Friday and calls you back on Monday, are they really motivated, or are they just?
No, well, he was a Friday 5 o'clock guy, if I remember correctly. And I think this was the 7th or 8th. He had 7 failures before he got a success. 7 failures. And he didn't call him back. You can't stand it. You'd have to call him back. Because you don't believe that there's another one around the corner. Just like the pretty girl. There's millions of them around the corner. It's a numbers game. You will not, I say this generically, not just this group, you will find it almost impossible to believe You don't want to believe it's a numbers game because that reduces you to just a fucking bookkeeper, not even a bookkeeper. And you don't want to believe that. And for those of you that have more education, it's even harder for you to do that. You're nothing. I know you're nothing. We haven't had anybody come through the seminar in 30 years, in a long time, that has had a meaningful impact on the world. We haven't. And I don't, I do this another 18, 19 months. It's not likely that we will. Pete Conrad, the third guy to walk on the moon, is the closest we've had. PD. He's the closest. He was the third guy, and being the third guy to walk on the moon, as if he was still alive, he'd be standing here, he'd tell you, isn't shit, as Mr. Peña would say. I thought it was pretty impressive. And he says that the astronauts all had a death wish. And there is alien life, amongst other things. Buzz Aldrin, who was in the first group that walked on the moon, he now says in his book or his memoirs, whatever, we saw lights going around our capsule coming back, but all we wanted to do was get home. We didn't stop and look, ask, or nothing. We've had a lot of people come in here who want to change the world, Greenpeace and things like that, haven't done dick. Once they make a bunch of money, all of a sudden they stop carrying their placards around embassies and go live in Beverly Hills or the Hamptons or something and forget about all that shit. And that makes me happy. Not too many things make me happy, but that makes me happy. Somebody else's hand was up. In the back, sir.
Two
YouTube.
points.
Adios, motherfuckers.